So it's 9:05 on Friday. Yeah, Friday. We were down to minimum staffing, I guess not minimum, with 8. We had 3 on the truck and 2 two-man medic units. One medic unit was transporting a patient to LCH, so we were down a medic unit at that time. BC and truck and medic 31 responded out of this station. And on the way down there, we had heard a size up from one of our volunteers, Wilkerson, got on scene, gave a size up of 2-story with fire coming out the Alpha Bravo corner. A little bit of smoke that I could see on the way down there. When I got on scene, the fire was blowing out the Alpha Bravo and the front door on the Alpha side as well. I redid size up, assumed command. On my way there, I heard command call or have dispatch call railroad to have them notified that we were right there close to their tracks and we could be.
Scott made that call?
Yes. When I got on scene and assumed command, made contact with the family that was in the house to make sure that there was nobody else in there. They said the only thing that was in there was their dog, but they didn't know where at this point. I continued my 360 around the house. By that time, we started getting well involved in the whole first floor. We had smoke coming out of the Delta or the Charlie window where the family escaped from on the second floor. We had heavy smoke coming out of the Bravo side window, second floor, and the whole first floor was well involved. After my 360, I made the decision to call this a defensive fire. There was no point in putting anybody in there that well involved due to the construction. I knew there was going to be knee walls up on that second floor, and it was going to be hard to get in there to try to do anything with. About that time, I radioed to the truck to let them know I wanted them to grab the hydrant on Elmore and Williams because I didn't want to block the tracks off at Hay Street. And they came in and laid 4-inch to wherever they decided to set up the truck at. And then I did face-to-face with Blaine, told him what we wanted, and Medic 31 had pulled in just in front of them and with their crew. And so he continued operations with it.
What did you do, Blaine, when you got there?
So initially, when we got the information, we headed down Oak to Elmore, where the hydrant was at. I had no firefighter to take the hydrant wet. I had 4 on the truck at that time. I had an intern, Fitzgerald, and then firefighter Kinsey Crenshaw with me as well. So we laid the hydrant wet, got up to the house, pulled past the house for the turntable we set up for defensive mode, aerial ops. And then I instructed Medic 31 and to pull a line to the Bravo side.
What size line did you pull?
We pulled in 3/4 line. Firefighter Caro pulled the first line, and firefighter Hood pulled the second line around to the Charlie side. And then once McKenzie, firefighter Crenshaw met up with us, we paired up Hooley and Fitzgerald, and then Caro and Crenshaw together. They were on the line together doing the defensive attack.
They split them off, so they had didn't have 2 new people on one hose line. Pro being an intern, so Blaine had those 2 split off to go with Hooley and Caro, so at least we had some experience. About that time, Medic 34 arrived, and they were instructed to face-to-face with me and then grab a 2.5 or another hand line to go around to the Charlie side to see what they could start doing back there. And then I started noticing smoke coming out of the garage area, which was an attached garage by a breezeway. It wasn't a fully attached garage. And so they ended up having to cut into the building to get in there to see if the smoke was just wafting in there from the burning structure or if it was actually on fire as well. There was nothing there. They did a quick search survey of it and then got back to me. About that time, I also had radioed for utilities to be cut. Police was already on their way to do traffic control. We shut that whole section down of William Street and diverted traffic. 302 arrived. 303 was already on scene. He got there just shortly after me. Was doing interviews with the residents at that time, trying to figure out what, where, how. And then I think it was about 20 minutes. We were 20 minutes into the fire, close to 20 minutes, when we finally got a second new engine to come. And they were told to come down East Oak and post up at A Street and Williams and just bring their crew for manpower to the command post. We had enough lines, I felt, on the truck, the way we were doing things to get the job done. We didn't need that second engine, but we could have used a second engine if we would, for sure, the railroad was going to be shut down. Because when we were starting to pick up, we never said the railroad was clear and the train come through.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What would you have that crew do? The second.
That second engine company, when they came up to me, I had them take over for Medic 31 on the Alpha side. Most of the fire was knocked down on the first floor, but we still had a lot of fire at the second floor, and the only way to reach it was through the second story Alpha window. I had them replace them because the crew had run out of air in their SBA, and so I rotated those guys out to get some fresh bottles and rehab real quick. And then we did the same thing with Medic 34. We started rotating the crews out, and we were still actively fighting fire, but it was to a point that we were trying to make other decisions on how we were going to get into the second story.
Did you have rehab set up?
Rehab was set up. It was set up right next to the command post. I also during all this, 302 came back to the station to see what we had here. And engine 33 went en route, but I had them divert to come to station 31 because they were by themselves. I phone contacted 302 to have him, if there was anybody available, to grab Rescue 31 and bring it down so we could continue to fill bottles. And so Bob Ryan brought it down for us and dropped it off, and Scott Wilkerson actually took over running that for me.
Any takeaways from it?
Knowing that just the construction of it, after talking to the residents, I could see why we were making very good headway on the second story. It sounds like it was an old structure to begin with, but there was a lot of stuff done upstairs. The main bedroom portion went from Alpha window to the Charlie window, but it didn't go to the Bravo side at all. There was a window on that Bravo side, which we were trying to effectively fight through, but there was another wall there and another wall. So we weren't making it into the main fire room at all on the second floor. We'd actually took the aerial and used the nozzle through the Bravo window to see if we couldn't rapidly cool and try to make some effectiveness there. It helped a little bit, but until some things started to change on the Charlie side, where they're actually able to get water up in there, we still had a lot of active fire on the second floor.
Yeah, they had a piece of plywood from the ceiling or a dresser of some sort was in the way of blocking the window. It was back in there about 3 feet, so you couldn't see that when you're hitting the nozzle. So until we started actually knocking off siding off that Charlie second story window there, then we actually made some headway cooling it there. So we attempted to ventilate. We weren't quite high enough in the ventilation hole. Ended up ventilating over a knee wall, which looked like a spot where a lot of the smoke was coming out of. So then we, after fire was knocked down, we made another ventilation wall Delta side to finish up the fire salvage off that.
Who went up and did that?
So the first hole was cut by Ken Foster and Casey Top
And that was done on the alpha side.
on the outside
On the lower corner.
from the truck, from the ladder. And then the second hole was cut on the Delta side by Tucker Caro and Kentucky Shop.
And the cut that was decided to be made on the Delta side wasn't for any special purpose of ventilation or anything like that. It was just to make access into the second story so we could continue to use hose lines through that window and to see what we had in there. We couldn't get the ladder from the aerial to the alpha window because we had a tree right in the way. And trying to throw a ladder to that alpha window wouldn't have worked either because we had a front porch over the doorway that would have kept us from doing that. The only other thing we could have done is just go up and cut a whole brand new window space in that second story on the alpha side, just so we could see down to that Charlie end. And it was the same in the back on the Charlie side. There was so much debris, garbage, junk laying back there that we couldn't safely get a ladder up there to be able to do anything with it. So that's when we decided the Delta side, there was looked like a lean-to type area, but it was actually a bathroom they had put in. And they got up there and sounded the roof. They cut a hole, inspection hole in the sidewall to look inside to see what it looked like in there, if it had burned heavily. And they said that it looked good. They got up on top, sounded the roof, and they were able to get into that Delta side and open up that second floor pretty well.
Sounded like the ceiling was pretty bad.
On the first floor had about a 4-inch drop right in the center of where the main fire room was. That's why you didn't get fire and life safety in there to do an investigation, because I didn't feel safe sending my crews in there to do anything, and I didn't want them in there either. And if I would have changed anything, I wouldn't have, because I felt that was the right call.
Anything else?
I think if initially, if there would have been people on the second floor, we could have done a VES off the Charlie side. There wasn't enough smoke or fire coming out of that alpha window that would give me any cause of concern to not send somebody up at the backside of it to do a quick search. They would have had little time, but they would still been able to do something. So that was one thing that we talked about as well, kind of in our tailboard talk. So.
Got it. Mike, anything? Thanks, guys.